Good evening, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. Tonight's journey drifts through one of the most astonishing systems. Hidden inside you, a living, breathing network that never sleeps, never hesitates, and never forgets. We're traveling through the invisible universe of your immune system, the quiet intelligence that keeps you alive every single day. It defends, repairs, and remembers. It learns from every challenge, writes its lessons into your very cells, and passes that wisdom along, so that tomorrow you are just a little stronger than you were yesterday. It is one of the oldest stories in biology, the story of how life learned to endure. Before we begin, I'd love to know where you're watching from. It always amazes me to see listeners scattered across every corner of the planet, connected by curiosity and calm. And if you find this video soothing or interesting, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. If you're already part of this quiet little community, thank you truly. You help keep these stories alive, drifting softly from one curious mind to another. Just don't forget to tap the notification bell so you won't miss the next time we wander somewhere new together. I do hope this video isn't too interesting, that it keeps you awake. But if it does, at least you might drift off a little wiser than before. Now let's begin our quiet journey inward. Beneath your skin, there exists a universe not made of stars or galaxies, but of cells, molecules, and patterns of light, so small they move in silence. This universe has its own weather, its own rivers, and its own form of time. Every second, thousands of stories unfold inside you, tiny cells patrolling through veins, messages written in chemical code, the endless rhythm of creation and repair. You are not just a body. You are a habitat, a complex, self-sustaining world that thinks without words and acts without your awareness. Your immune system is the guardian of that world. It's the invisible balance that decides what belongs and what doesn't, what may stay and what must go. From the surface of your skin to the hidden chambers of your marrow, from the air in your lungs to the microbes in your gut, it watches, learns, and adapts. It remembers old enemies and welcomes new allies. It is the bridge between self and other, the ancient conversation that has kept life alive for more than 3 billion years. If you could shrink yourself to the size of a cell and drift through your bloodstream, you'd see landscapes that rival the galaxies above. Vast red plains of blood cells flowing like a river of rubies. White sentinels gliding between them, scanning every current for signs of danger. Chemical lights flickering in communication, as if the body itself were whispering in a secret language of molecules. Every heartbeat propels this unseen world forward. Every breath feeds its energy. It's a system of perpetual motion, one that never pauses, even as you rest. And the most extraordinary part, it works entirely on its own. You don't ask your white blood cells to wake up, or your lymph nodes to filter invaders, or your bone marrow to craft new defenders. They simply do. Life has perfected this symphony through millions of generations, passing the notes forward through DNA until every living human became a continuation of the same ancient orchestra. It is nature's oldest intelligence, a logic so deep it exists beneath thought itself. So tonight, as you listen and perhaps drift towards sleep, imagine the vastness within you. Every tiny cell, every pulse of blood, every silent guardian, all working together in harmony, keeping you alive, keeping you whole. There is no noise, no panic, no chaos, only coordination, adaptation, and trust. Beneath your skin lies a universe of order, a universe that loves survival, a universe that has been watching over you since before you were born. If the body were a planet, the skin would be its atmosphere, the thin and fragile border between chaos and control. It's easy to think of skin as something inert, a quiet surface that simply holds us together. But that's not true. Your skin is alive, an ecosystem, a sensor, and a fortress all at once. It breathes, it feels, and it guards the delicate equilibrium that makes life possible. Without this barrier, the line between the inner world and the outer world would dissolve in minutes. But how does this living shield know what to keep out and what to let in? The answer lies in layers, both physical and biological, working in perfect coordination. The outermost layer, called the stratum corneum, is made of flattened dead cells, sealed with lipids like tiles of a microscopic roof. Each cell once lived deeper within, and when its time came, it rose to the surface, filled itself with keratin, and gave its life to strengthen the wall. These lifeless cells form a tough armor, but they're not alone. They're embedded in oils, sweat, and secretions that adjust constantly depending on temperature, humidity, and even your emotional state. When you feel fear, stress hormones tighten pores and redirect blood flow. When you relax, the skin softens, allowing heat and subtle scents to escape. Every pore is a tiny valve in the climate system of your body. But skin's intelligence goes deeper than mere texture. Just beneath the surface, immune sentinels, known as Langerhans, cells patrol like forest rangers among the branches of the epidermis. They're part of the immune system's earliest line of recognition, constantly sampling their surroundings for unfamiliar molecules. When they detect something that doesn't belong, a fragment of bacteria, a viral particle, a toxin, they migrate toward the lymph nodes to deliver the message. There they present the evidence to other immune cells, sparking the complex symphony of defense that may last days or weeks. In this way, your skin doesn't just protect, it communicates. It's not a wall, it's a border with diplomacy. If you zoom closer, even the dry desert of your forearm or the moist curve of your eyelid is crowded with life. Trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, and even tiny mites inhabit the surface of your body in an ecosystem called the skin microbiome. To the untrained mind, that might sound alarming, but in truth, these invisible guests are essential allies. Many of them produce antimicrobial compounds that outcompete harmful bacteria. Others train your immune cells to tolerate harmless intruders. It's an ancient truce, a biological peace treaty that took millions of years to negotiate. When this balance is disturbed by harsh soaps, antibiotics, or chronic stress, the peace can crumble, and conditions like eczema or acne appear. But when harmony is maintained, your microbiome acts as an outer village of guardians fighting for your health without you ever noticing. Even hair, often dismissed as cosmetic, plays a role in protection. Each strand is a sentinel that extends the body's awareness. Tiny muscles at its base contract when you feel cold or frightened, causing goosebumps, a reflex inherited from ancestors whose fur once stood on end to trap warmth or appear larger to predators. It's a vestigial reminder that the immune system's origins are intertwined with the environment. To survive, life had to sense threat long before it could think. And what about the other frontiers? The eyes, the mouth, the nose. Each of these openings is both gateway and battlefield. Tears, for example, contain lysozyme, an enzyme so powerful it can dissolve the walls of bacteria. Saliva carries similar enzymes, keeping your mouth from becoming a microbial jungle. In the stomach, hydrochloric acid burns away most invaders that make it past the upper defenses, reducing them to harmless molecules within seconds. The mucus that lines your respiratory tract acts like a sticky conveyor belt, trapping dust spores and microbes before they can descend into the lungs. Every breath you take is filtered, analyzed, and adjusted by this living machinery. Have you ever wondered how often your body encounters potential invaders? Scientists estimate that the average human breathes in thousands of microbes with every inhalation touches hundreds of surfaces each day and consumes food that could, in theory, harbor entire colonies of bacteria. Yet, you rarely fall ill. Why? Because the outer defenses act like silent guardians, catching nearly everything before it can take hold. The immune system's internal army, the cells that wage microscopic battles in the blood, are only called upon when the outer walls fail. Most of the time, the wars you never notice are won before they even begin. It's fascinating to think that this entire architecture of protection evolved not from planning, but from persistence. Billions of years ago, when single-celled organisms floated in the primordial ocean's survival depended on maintaining a stable interior in a chaotic world. They developed membranes, primitive skins, to keep their chemistry intact. Over time, those membranes grew more complex, folded inward, and gave rise to the first multicellular organisms. Every human skin cell today carries the legacy of that innovation. The instinct to separate inside from outside, self from other, is as old as life itself. And yet, the skin is not a prism. It's permeable by design. It lets in sunlight, which triggers the creation of vitamin D, essential for bone health and immune regulation. It sweats to release heat, excreting small amounts of salt and toxins. It absorbs chemicals and signals from the world, including pheromones and environmental cues that subtly shape behavior and mood. So, while it guards, it also connects. In this balance between separation and contact lies the secret of life's continuity. The next time you notice a small cut on your finger, consider what happens in the seconds that follow. Blood rushes to the wound, clotting factors form a net to seal the breach, platelets plug the gap, and immune cells swarm in to clean debris and prevent infection. Within hours, tissue begins to rebuild itself layer by layer. You might never feel the coordination behind it, but it's there, a response, both ancient and immediate, written into the blueprint of your biology. This is not just repair, it's memory in motion. The body remembers how to heal because it has done so since the beginning of evolution. And here's a question worth asking. If every inch of your body is covered in this vigilant, reactive skin, how does your immune system know when not to react? Why don't we constantly inflame ourselves in defense against harmless things, the air, the dust, the bacteria that mean no harm? The answer lies in tolerance, a quiet principle at the core of immunity. Your body learns through constant exposure which molecules are safe. It trains its cells to ignore friendly patterns while staying alert to danger. This selective calm is what allows coexistence between you and the microbial world. Without it, your skin would become a battlefield of endless inflammation. In many ways, the skin teaches us a lesson about civilization itself: protection without paranoia, vigilance without violence, contact without chaos. Every flake of dead skin that falls away, every droplet of sweat, every bacterial colony that thrives on your elbow or eyelid, all are part of a grand negotiation between you and the environment. You are not separate from the world outside. You are its extension, a participant in the ongoing dialogue between organism and planet. Inside the quiet currents of your bloodstream, an invisible patrol is always moving. It never stops, never sleeps, and never truly rests. The soldiers of your immune system, your first defenders, drift and glide like travelers through an endless red ocean. They are ancient guardians, older than thought, older than words. And though you'll never see them, they are among the most disciplined forces in the natural world. Their mission is simple but profound: to recognize what belongs to you and what does not. It's an astonishing question, isn't it? How does your body, made of billions of nearly identical cells, know the difference between self and stranger? between a friendly bacterium and a deadly invader? The answer lies in a language so subtle that it exists only in chemistry, a molecular code written across the surfaces of every cell you own. Each of your cells wears a unique signature of proteins and sugars, like an identity card, declaring, "I belong here." Your immune system reads those signals, constantly scanning for irregularities, searching for patterns that don't match the body's internal map. When it finds one, it acts without hesitation. The first to arrive on any scene of invasion are the neutrophils, swift and selfless. They make up nearly 60% of your white blood cells, yet most will live only a few days. Think of them as kamikaze responders. They race to the site of infection, engulf bacteria, or debris, release antimicrobial chemicals, and often die in the process. Their sacrifice leaves behind a battlefield of fragments and fluids that we recognize as pus. It's an unglamorous sign of heroism, microscopic lives spent defending yours. Behind them move the macrophages, the great eaters. They are larger, slower, and wiser veterans of many battles. They devour whatever remains, digesting invaders and dead cells alike. But their work is not only destruction. They are storytellers, too, narrators of the immune world. Each time a macrophage consumes a foreign particle, it breaks it down into pieces and displays fragments on its surface like trophies or warnings. These fragments are called antigens, and they are the first messages that signal the need for reinforcements. Through chemical communication, a language made of cytokines and chemokines, macrophages summon help from across the body. Imagine for a moment that you could watch this scene unfold beneath a microscope. The tissue around a small cut begins to redden and warm. That heat is not infection itself. It's the surge of blood carrying immune cells to the breach. Capillaries dilate, walls become more permeable. Plasma seeps out, delivering clotting factors and nutrients. Soon, the neutrophils arrive, swarming like fireflies. They identify intruders using receptors shaped by millions of years of evolution. Each receptor designed to recognize patterns common among pathogens, not specific species, but universal motifs: bacterial walls, viral envelopes, fungal threads. It's a system of pattern recognition so fundamental that scientists call it innate immunity, the immunity you are born with. Not long after macrophages lumber in, they devour the fallen and begin broadcasting distress calls. Nearby natural killer cells, aptly named, begin to inspect the area. Their specialty is not bacteria, but traitors, your own cells, that have been hijacked by viruses or transformed into potential tumors. They know which cells should display healthy identity markers and which should not. If a cell's identification code is missing or damaged, the natural killer cell releases a cocktail of enzymes that trigger the rogue cell's self-destruction. It's a ruthless mercy, an act of pruning that keeps the larger organism safe. And still, even this microscopic war is not chaos. It's choreography. The swelling of inflammation, the rise of temperature, the chemical signals that attract reinforcements, all are carefully tuned. Too weak and infection spreads. Too strong and healthy tissues suffer collateral damage. The body walks this balance like a tightrope, guided by feedback loops that scientists are still unraveling. When inflammation succeeds, the invaders are cleared and quiet returns. When it fails, chronic conditions arise: asthma, arthritis, or autoimmune reactions, where the body mistakes itself for the enemy. Another question emerges here, gentle but profound. How does this entire system coordinate itself without a single brain cell? How can such intelligence exist in a network of mindless particles? The answer reveals one of nature's most elegant truths: that order can arise from interaction alone. Every immune cell is an agent obeying local rules and chemical cues. No general gives commands. No central hub dictates behavior. Yet from this decentralized communication, a complex and adaptive defense emerges, a biological democracy that has protected life for billions of years. At the heart of this coordination are cytokines, small signaling molecules that act like messages carried on the wind. Some summon reinforcements, others calm the response once victory is achieved. One type, called interferons, is released by infected cells to warn their neighbors, prompting them to prepare antiviral defenses. Another, interleukin-6, triggers fever, raising your body's temperature to slow microbial growth. Fever may feel uncomfortable, but it is a calculated strategy, an ancient form of heat therapy refined by evolution. Even the chills that precede it serve purpose. Muscles contract to generate warmth, accelerating metabolism and immune activity. In recent decades, scientists have realized that these same cytokines also influence mood and behavior. During infection, when your energy dips and you crave rest, it's not mere weakness, it's immune-driven wisdom. Your body is instructing you to conserve energy for repair. What we call sickness behavior is actually cooperation between the immune system and the brain, an alliance between biology and consciousness. The desire to lie still beneath a blanket, the loss of appetite, even the subtle melancholy that comes with a cold, all are part of the choreography of healing. Meanwhile, deep within your bone marrow, the production line never halts. Stem cells divide and differentiate into new white blood cells, replenishing the army. Some will become fresh neutrophils, others macrophages, dendritic cells, or natural killers. This regeneration is ceaseless. Every day your body creates billions of new immune cells, each with the potential to recognize and respond to the unexpected. It's like a biological sunrise renewal without fail. The innate immune system, though ancient and fast, is not perfect. It recognizes broad patterns but cannot remember individuals. Once an infection is cleared, these first defenders die, leaving no lasting record. Memory belongs to another branch, the adaptive immune system, which will appear later in our story. For now, know that these early responders are the unsung heroes. They buy time. They hold the line until precision forces arrive. As the battle fades, macrophages switch roles. They begin to release anti-inflammatory molecules, encouraging healing. They clean up cellular debris, stitch tissue back together, and quietly withdraw. Blood flow returns to normal. The redness fades. Under the surface, fibroblasts, the body's architects, rebuild the extracellular matrix, sealing the wound from within. What remains is not a scar of failure, but a signature of resilience. A reminder that you have healed before and will heal again. When we step back and look at this microscopic drama, we see something almost philosophical. Defense in nature is never about destruction alone. It is about balance. The immune system is not a wall of fear, but a river of adjustment, a constant recalibration between life and its surroundings. It knows that survival isn't about isolation, but about negotiation, identifying what must be removed and what may stay. It's the same rule that governs ecosystems, civilizations, even relationships. Harmony isn't achieved by removing conflict. It's achieved by responding to it wisely. So the next time you feel the warmth of a healing wound or the dull fatigue of a mild fever, remember that your body is not failing. It is responding, coordinating, balancing. The redness is communication. The ache is reconstruction. The tiredness is cooperation. Beneath your awareness, an army is at work. Not mindless soldiers, but mindful systems born of eons of evolution. And as the day turns to night, that army remains awake. While you sleep, they patrol your blood, your lungs, your skin, tracing the borders of your being, listening for the faintest whisper of intrusion. You may not command them, but they obey a code older than language, the code of survival itself. Beneath the surface of every heartbeat lies a council in constant session. It does not meet in any one place, nor does it keep minutes or hold debates, yet decisions of astonishing complexity unfold there every second. The immune system, for all its chaos and autonomy, possesses hierarchy, a fluid command structure that directs defense with clarity, even in the thickest fog of infection. Every decision, from the swelling of inflammation to the retreat of a fever, arises from this invisible chain of command. It is the language of survival, spoken not in words, but in molecules. How does the body without a brain in its bloodstream make coordinated choices? How does a cell in the finger communicate with a cell in the spleen, or with one buried deep inside the bone marrow? The secret lies in the chemistry of conversation. Immune cells are not mindless fighters. They are communicators that release microscopic messages known as cytokines and chemokines, bursts of protein signals that act like radio frequencies. Each one carries a distinct tone and purpose: to summon reinforcements, to declare victory, to command restraint. Through this molecular diplomacy, the body creates coherence from chaos. At the onset of an infection, macrophages, those tireless watchers introduced earlier, are usually the first to raise the alarm. They detect invaders through special receptors that recognize molecular motifs common to pathogens. The moment they sense danger, they secrete cytokines, such as interleukin-1 and tumor necrosis factor alpha-2, of the body's most potent rallying cries. These molecules drift through the bloodstream, binding to receptors on nearby cells, and within minutes the entire immune landscape transforms. Blood vessels widen, permeability increases, temperature rises. To the outside observer, this is inflammation. To the immune system, it is strategy. Meanwhile, other immune cells respond to the call with remarkable precision. Neutrophils accelerate their migration toward the signal, guided by chemokines that form invisible gradients across tissues. Like bees following scent, they move along these gradients until they arrive exactly where they're needed. Dendritic cells, the immune system's scouts, gather fragments of the enemy and retreat to the lymph nodes, where the next stage of decision-making begins. They're surrounded by countless other immune cells. They display their captured samples to a new class of responders, the T cells. Inside the lymph node, the atmosphere is electric. Millions of T cells drift and brush past one another, each with a unique receptor on its surface. This receptor acts like a lock waiting for its key, a key that matches a specific antigen. Most encounters lead nowhere, but occasionally one lock meets its perfect key, a dendritic cell presenting an antigen that fits exactly. That moment is the spark that ignites adaptive immunity. The T cell, now activated, begins to divide rapidly, producing an army of clones that share its specificity. Some will become helpers, coordinating the broader response. Others will become killers, seeking out infected cells to destroy. The decision-making here is not random. It is guided by thresholds, feedback loops, and contextual cues that biologists continue to study. If too few cytokines are present, activation fails. If too many flood, the system chaos ensues. The immune command chain relies on moderation, the art of signaling just enough. In this delicate dance, every cell listens as much as it speaks. The result is a decentralized intelligence that can adapt faster than any central control ever could. What makes this process even more extraordinary is its memory. Once a T cell has been activated and the battle has been won, not all of its clones perish. A small number become memory. T cells, long-lived sentinels that remain vigilant for years. Should the same invader return, They respond instantly, recalling the pattern of the enemy's signature and eliminating it before illness even begins. This is why certain infections like measles or chickenpox often occur only once. The body remembers and memory becomes immunity. Yet even as the immune network learns, it knows restraint. When victory nears, the chemical tone of communication changes. Pro-inflammatory cytokines fade, replaced by soothing molecules, such as interleukin-10, which signals that it's time to heal. Macrophages shift from aggression to repair, secreting growth factors that rebuild tissue. It's a transition so elegant that one might call it moral, a shift from war to restoration. The system that once tore invaders apart now stitches the body whole again. The more scientists study this command network, the more parallels emerge between immune behavior and human society. Every major infection reveals the same logic: decentralized, decision-making specialization of roles, adaptive learning, and accountability through feedback. When a cell overreacts, producing too much cytokine, the body intervenes to suppress it. When communication breaks down, disorders arise, from allergies, where harmless signals trigger full defense, to autoimmune diseases, where the body mistakes its own tissues for invaders. These are failures of diplomacy, not of intent. Consider, for instance, the phenomenon known as a cytokine storm. In this rare and dangerous condition, the body's own signaling spirals out of control. Cells release cytokines in excess, summoning more immune cells that in turn release even more. The feedback loop becomes catastrophic, leading to widespread inflammation and damage to healthy tissues. This self-inflicted turmoil shows that even biological intelligence can falter when communication becomes noise. The same system that protects can also endanger if its balance is lost. Beneath these microscopic dramas lies an even deeper question: where does control truly reside? Some researchers argue that the nervous and immune systems are two halves of a single network. Nerves sense damage and relay information to immune cells, while immune signals influence mood perception and even decision-making in the brain. The vagus nerve, which connects the gut and organs to the brainstem, carries immune messages upward, allowing inflammation to shape emotions. This is why prolonged illness can bring fatigue, sadness, and withdrawal, evolutionary strategies designed to encourage rest and recovery. In that way, the immune system does not just defend the body, it shapes the mind. The command structure, then, is not limited to molecules and cells. It extends to consciousness itself. Stress, loneliness, and lack of sleep can weaken immune coordination, while calm, nutrition, and consistent rest strengthen it. Studies show that meditation, slow breathing, and even a sense of belonging can reduce inflammatory markers in the blood. The connection between emotion and immunity is not a metaphor, it is measurable chemistry. Your body listens to your mood. In moments of crisis, this communication becomes visceral. When you cut yourself, for instance, pain fibers in the skin release neuropeptides that alert nearby immune cells. They in turn respond with cytokines that amplify the pain, ensuring you notice the injury and protect it from further harm. It's a conversation of necessity, a reminder that awareness and defense are intertwined. Neither could function without the other. Eventually, the chain of command cycles back to equilibrium. The signals quieten, cells return to their patrol routes. The wound closes, the fever breaks, the appetite returns. What remains is the unseen record of what has been learned, a biological memory encoded in the genes of surviving cells. To your conscious mind, it feels like recovery. To your body, it feels like knowledge. There's something deeply poetic about this. Every infection, every minor illness, every scratch that heals, leaves an invisible imprint in your biology. You are not static, you are a living archive of survival decisions. The immune system keeps score not in pain, but in progress. Through its chain of command, it ensures that wisdom accumulates, that the next challenge will be met with greater precision than the last. In this sense, the immune system is more than a defense, it is an educator. It teaches the body to discern, to choose, to adapt. What begins as molecular chemistry evolves into a lesson in restraint, coordination, and foresight. Life, at its most fundamental level, has learned how to organize itself for endurance. As the night deepens and the quiet within you expands, remember that these intricate conversations never cease. Even now, somewhere in the labyrinth of your bloodstream, a macrophage is sending a message. A lymphocyte is listening, and 1,000 invisible negotiations are keeping you whole. Within this living chain of command, no sound is wasted, no signal unheard. The body decides not through force, but through understanding, a harmony of purpose that turns chaos into coherence and danger into design. Every moment of your life, your body is learning. It learns when you breathe new air, when you touch another hand, when you recover from a cold, or even when you laugh. Beneath that simplicity of experience lies an education older than thought, an intelligence that operates without a brain, guided only by contact, error, and remembrance. This intelligence belongs to the immune system's second branch, the adaptive immune response, a network that does not merely react to danger, but remembers it. Where the innate immune system is reflexive, this one is reflective. It learns, recalls, and improves. If the body were a civilization, these would be its scholars, archivists, and historians. The story begins within the bone marrow, the quiet workshop where blood is born. Here, stem cells divide endlessly, giving rise to new defenders. Some mature into B cells, others into T cells, each destined for a different path of service. The B cells are craftsmen of weaponry, designed to create antibodies that recognize and neutralize specific threats. The T cells, meanwhile, act as strategists and enforcers, coordinating responses or executing infected cells with surgical precision. Together, they form the cognitive arm of immunity, capable of recognizing millions of distinct molecular signatures. Yet this recognition is not innate. It must be earned. When a new pathogen enters the body, a virus never before encountered, or a bacterium evolved beyond familiarity, the adaptive immune system begins its greatest art, the art of learning. Dendritic cells, those tireless scouts, carry fragments of the invader from the site of infection to the lymph nodes. There, beneath the quiet surface of your neck or armpits, a microscopic meeting begins. The dendritic cells present these fragments, known as antigens, to the waiting T cells, each one scanning with its unique receptor, searching for a match. It is an extraordinary lottery. Of the millions of T cells drifting through your body, perhaps only a few possess receptors that can recognize the precise molecular pattern displayed by the dendritic cell. But when that match occurs, when a T cell meets its perfect antigen, the response is electric. The T cell activates, divides, and sends signals that ripple across the network. Some of its descendants become helper T cells, orchestrating other immune cells and directing the entire operation. Others become cytotoxic T cells, lethal assassins trained to find and destroy any cell infected by the same invader. What follows is not chaos, but choreography, the synchronized awakening of the body's most intelligent defense. Meanwhile, the B cells join the campaign. Their receptors, antibodies anchored to their surfaces, encounter free-floating antigens in the bloodstream. When a B cell finds its target, it too activates, but only with the help of those same helper T cells. It's a double verification system, a biological safeguard to prevent false alarms. Once approved, the B cell transforms into a plasma cell, a living factory capable of producing thousands of antibodies every second. These antibodies, now released into circulation, bind to invaders, marking them for destruction, or neutralizing them outright. The sheer elegance of this process is breathtaking. Every antibody is unique, a lock designed for a single molecular key. Through mechanisms known as gene rearrangement and somatic hypermutation, B cells shuffle and refine their genetic code, experimenting with countless variations until the perfect fit emerges. It is evolution happening in real time within your own tissues. The best antibodies are selected, while the less effective ones fade away. Survival of the fittest, condensed into the lifespan of a single infection. And then comes the true genius of the system memory. Once the pathogen is gone, most of the immune cells that fought it die their duty complete. But a select few, the memory T cells and memory B cells, remain. They drift quietly through your body, sometimes for decades, sometimes for a lifetime, holding the record of that encounter. Should the same microbe return, these veterans recognize it, instantly triggering an immune response so swift that illness never gains a foothold. To you, it feels like immunity. To your body, it feels like déjà vu. This ability to remember has transformed not only biology, but history itself. Vaccination, one of humanity's greatest triumphs, works entirely through this principle. By exposing the body to a harmless fragment or weakened form of a pathogen, vaccines teach the immune system without endangering it. The body learns the enemy's face in a rehearsal rather than a war. When the real pathogen appears later, the immune system responds not as a novice, but as a veteran. Smallpox, once one of the deadliest diseases in human history, was eradicated through this elegant strategy. In every vaccinated person, the immune system's memory became a thread in a global tapestry of protection. Yet memory is not always perfect. Pathogens evolve, mutating their surface proteins to evade recognition. This is why influenza changes yearly, why certain viruses can reinfect, and why the immune system must remain perpetually curious. It must keep learning, updating, adapting, not unlike a mind expanding through experience. In this sense, immunity mirrors consciousness itself. We too learn by exposure, by recovering from mistakes, by remembering what once hurt us. The immune system is our biological philosopher, reminding us that wisdom grows only through encounter. But like all intelligence, this system must know when to rest. Too much vigilance can become harm. Autoimmunity, when the body turns its defenses inward, is what happens when memory misfires, when recognition becomes obsession. Diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and multiple sclerosis arise not from external enemies, but from internal confusion. The immune system forgets the boundaries of self and begins to attack its own tissues. Scientists now believe that stress, infection, and genetic predisposition can all blur this recognition, overwhelming the delicate checks and balances that normally prevent self-destruction. It is the immune system's tragedy. The same precision that guards life can, under strain, turn against it. Still, most of the time, this vast network performs flawlessly. It balances aggression and tolerance, adaptation and restraint with a grace that rivals any human system. The coordination between cells, the feedback loops that modulate response, the molecular dialogues that resolve conflict, all of it occurs in silence, beneath awareness. You go about your day unaware that your body is conducting a perpetual negotiation between memory and mercy. Beyond its defense, the immune system also shapes your development in subtler ways. Studies show that children raised in overly sterile environments where germs are few and microbial exposure limited are more prone to allergies and autoimmune disorders later in life. This hygiene hypothesis suggests that the immune system, like a young mind, needs experience to mature. It must encounter harmless microbes, learn their signatures, and practice tolerance. Without such training, it grows anxious, overreacting to pollen dust or food proteins that pose no real danger. In short, the immune system learns calm through contact. Equally fascinating is the immune system's role in healing and growth. After an infection, it does not simply withdraw. Certain immune cells linger at the site of repair, releasing molecules that encourage tissue regeneration. These same molecules, growth factors and interleukins, can even stimulate the formation of new blood vessels and the remodeling of connective tissue. The immune system, then, is both destroyer and creator, protector and artist. When you think about it, this dual nature feels almost spiritual, not in the mystical sense, but in its symmetry. The system that eliminates danger also preserves memory, ensuring that knowledge survives even when life is tested. Through every illness and recovery, your immune system writes the autobiography of your body, one encounter at a time. The lessons are stored not in words, but in cells, not in thoughts, but in molecular memory. Each scar, each antibody, each quiet immunity is a line in that story. What does it mean for a body to learn? It means that you are never quite the same from one day to the next. Every breath, every contact, every microscopic challenge leaves a trace. Your immune system refines itself, becoming a little wiser, a little faster, a little more attuned to the patterns of the world around you. This is evolution, written small, not across generations, but within your own lifetime. So the next time you recover from a fever, or find that you no longer catch the same illness twice, pause and consider what has occurred. You have been educated by nature itself. Your cells have observed, reasoned, remembered, and prepared within the quiet architecture of your body. A vast and tireless mind continues to learn, not for fame or curiosity, but for the simplest, most profound purpose of all: to keep you alive. Every system that learns must also learn to forget. Memory is a gift, but without boundaries, it becomes a burden. In the immune system, this truth takes on an almost tragic dimension. For the body to defend itself, it must distinguish between self and other, familiar and foreign. But what happens when that distinction blurs? What happens when the guardian meant to protect begins to mistake the self for an intruder? The result is autoimmunity, the body's most intimate rebellion. To understand this paradox, we need to revisit one of the immune system's most fundamental principles: tolerance. From the moment immune cells are born in the bone marrow or the thymus, they undergo a kind of education. Young lymphocytes, newly formed and inexperienced, display a variety of receptors designed to recognize potential antigens. These receptors are created randomly through a process called gene recombination, a genetic shuffle that generates an almost infinite diversity of possible targets. It's nature's way of ensuring that no matter what pathogen may one day arise, the body will have at least a few defenders prepared to recognize it. Yet randomness comes at a cost. Among those countless receptors, some will inevitably recognize the body's own tissues. To prevent disaster, the immune system runs these rookie cells through a rigorous test. Inside the thymus, T cells are exposed to fragments of the body's own proteins. Those that react too strongly are eliminated in a process called negative selection. Only the disciplined survive, those capable of vigilance without violence. It is one of biology's earliest lessons in restraint. Still, perfection is impossible. Some self-reactive cells escape this culling, slipping unnoticed into circulation. Normally they remain silent, held in check by regulatory mechanisms, special immune cells known as regulatory T cells that act as peacekeepers. These cells patrol the network, releasing calming cytokines and ensuring that the immune system's aggression remains directed outward. But under stress, infection, or genetic predisposition, this fragile peace can fracture. A self-reactive cell may awaken, misreading its own home as hostile territory. When that happens, the defense turns inward. Autoimmune diseases come in many forms: each reflecting a different betrayal of recognition. In type 1 diabetes, the immune system destroys the insulin-producing beta cells of the pancreas, leaving the body unable to regulate blood sugar. In multiple sclerosis, it attacks the myelin sheaths that insulate neurons, disrupting the signals that allow movement and sensation. In lupus, antibodies target DNA, itself causing widespread inflammation that touches skin joints and organs. Each of these conditions is unique, yet they share a common root: the loss of distinction between self and other. The causes of this misidentification are complex, and despite decades of study, scientists still search for answers. Genetics plays a role. Certain immune-related genes make some people more susceptible than others. Environmental triggers also contribute. Infections, toxins, even diet can spark autoimmunity in those predisposed. In some cases, pathogens mimic the body's molecules so closely that the immune system, once trained to fight the invader, accidentally begins attacking its own cells in confusion. This phenomenon is known as molecular mimicry, and it may explain why certain infections precede autoimmune flare-ups. It's not malice that drives these mistakes, but pattern recognition gone astray. Despite the devastation they can cause, autoimmune disorders reveal something profound about the immune system's complexity. They remind us that immunity is not simply a binary of good and bad, defense and disease. It's a spectrum of behavior, governed by probability, context, and chemical nuance. The very mechanisms that make the immune system adaptable, its diversity, its speed, its capacity for memory, are the same ones that make it vulnerable to error. Perfection would require rigidity, and rigidity would end evolution. Flexibility demands risk. In the last few decades, researchers have uncovered a fascinating connection between the immune system's regulation and the environment it inhabits, particularly the microbial one. Inside your gut lives an immense community of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and archaea, collectively called the microbiome. This internal ecosystem plays a vital role in training the immune system, teaching it which signals are harmless and which are not. When the microbiome is diverse and balanced, it promotes tolerance and stability. But when it is disrupted through antibiotics, stress, or poor diet, the immune system loses its guide. Autoimmunity can emerge not from invasion, but from isolation. Perhaps that's the deepest irony. To remain peaceful, the immune system must stay in dialogue with the outside world. A child who grows up exposed to soil pests and varied diets tends to develop stronger immune tolerance than one raised in a sterile environment. Too much protection can become a prison. Too little contact breeds confusion. The body, it seems, needs conversation to know itself. Yet for all its potential to misfire, the immune system also possesses the capacity for forgiveness. Many autoimmune diseases wax and wane, flaring under stress, but quieting in calm. Treatments that suppress inflammation or modulate immune activity can restore equilibrium, though not always permanently. In some cases, remission comes unexpectedly, as if the body remembers its own boundaries once more. These recoveries hint at something extraordinary, that the immune system, even after error, retains the potential to relearn balance. In the laboratory, scientists have begun exploring how to guide this relearning deliberately. One promising field involves immune tolerance therapy, training the body to recognize specific molecules as safe again. This approach could one day replace broad immunosuppression with precision education, coaxing the immune system to correct its own misconceptions rather than silencing it entirely. Another area of research focuses on the gut-brain immune axis, the three-way communication among microbes, the nervous system, and immunity. Emerging evidence suggests that emotional health, microbial diversity, and immune balance are woven tightly together, Stress and loneliness can heighten inflammation. Compassion, community, and good sleep can calm it. Science is beginning to quantify what wisdom has long intuited, that peace of mind can become peace of body. There's a quiet lesson here about the nature of identity itself. The immune system's task is to define the boundaries of self, yet those boundaries are porous by design. Every breath you take introduces foreign molecules. Every meal adds microbial voices to your inner ecosystem. You are not a fortress, but a symbiosis, a living conversation between the human genome and the microbial world. Autoimmunity, then, is not just an error, it's a miscommunication within that dialogue. It's what happens when the language of cooperation falters. Even in that failure, there is beauty. It reveals how finely balanced life must be to sustain itself. For every autoimmune flare, there are billions of successful interactions each day, silent recognitions of harmony, of coexistence. The fact that autoimmunity is relatively rare compared to the complexity of the immune system's task is itself miraculous. It's as if the body spends an entire lifetime walking a narrow ridge between vigilance and acceptance, and almost always stays upright. In philosophical terms, the immune system mirrors the mind. Both must learn what to defend and what to release. Both can hold on too tightly to old wounds, mistaking memory for threat. Both are capable of healing when reminded of context. Just as forgiveness in the mind restores peace, tolerance in the body restores health. The parallel is not metaphorical. It is biological. The same neurotransmitters that shape empathy and calm serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin also influence immune cells, guiding their responses toward cooperation rather than aggression. Biology and emotion are different dialects of the same conversation. Imagine then your immune system as a living democracy, one that requires dissent and discussion, but also compromise. Every cell has a voice, every signal a purpose, and harmony depends on balance rather than unanimity. Autoimmunity is what happens when a few voices grow too loud, when self-protection turns into paranoia. Healing comes not from silencing the system, but from teaching it to listen. Again, in the end, autoimmunity reminds us that perfection has never been life's goal. The aim of the immune system, and perhaps of existence itself, is not flawlessness, but resilience, the ability to fall out of balance and return again. The capacity to misjudge and then to relearn. The grace to err without ceasing to strive. In this way, the immune system becomes not just a model of biology, but a metaphor for being human. There is a second immune system, one without cells or antibodies, one that speaks in silence rather than signals. It is the network that links your thoughts to your tissues, your emotions to your chemistry, your rest to your resistance. For centuries, this connection remained invisible, dismissed as poetic metaphor, the idea that stress could sicken or calm could heal. But science has now confirmed what the body always knew: the immune system does not act alone. It listens to the brain, the gut, and the rhythms of sleep. It belongs to a single conversation, a silent circuit uniting mind and matter. At first glance, the brain and immune system seem like separate kingdoms. The brain, encased in the skull, governs sensation and consciousness. The immune system, dispersed through the blood, manages defense and repair. Yet they are bound by constant dialogue. When immune cells release cytokines during infection or injury, these chemical messengers can cross the blood-brain barrier or signal through nerves, altering mood, appetite, and sleep. You know this as the fatigue of illness, the heaviness that draws you to rest. It's not weakness. It's instruction, your body requesting silence so it can repair. In the opposite direction, the brain also governs immunity through a vast neural web. The autonomic nervous system, divided into the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches, acts as a switch between vigilance and recovery. When stress activates the sympathetic response, adrenaline floods, the bloodstream heart rate quickens, and the immune system shifts into alert. This reaction, vital in short bursts, prepares the body for injury or infection. But when the stress is chronic, when worry becomes a habitat rather than a visitor, the same chemistry begins to erode resilience. Cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, suppresses immune function, thinning the defensive lines, reducing antibody production, and leaving the body vulnerable. The consequences of this imbalance appear in ways both subtle and vast. Wounds heal more slowly under pressure. Vaccines produce weaker responses in those deprived of sleep. Even the rhythm of daily stress, the rise and fall of emotional tension, maps onto immune behavior with uncanny precision. The immune system, it seems, does not live beneath consciousness. It lives beside it. And nowhere is this partnership more mysterious than in the realm of sleep. Every night, as you drift into slumber, your immune system enters its own phase of renewal. During deep sleep, the body increases the production of cytokines that promote healing and memory. The same restorative processes that consolidate learning in the brain also reinforce immune memory in the body. Studies show that after vaccination, people who sleep well develop stronger and longer-lasting immunity. Those deprived of rest show the opposite, a slower, weaker response. In the absence of dreams, the body forgets how to defend. But why? Why should sleep, an act of stillness, strengthen the machinery of defense? The answer may lie in timing. Throughout the day, cortisol and adrenaline surge and subside in rhythm with sunlight, keeping inflammation in check while you move through the world. At night, these hormones decline, allowing immune activity to peak. During sleep, blood flow redistributes toward the bone marrow and lymph nodes, nourishing the tissues where immune cells are born and trained. Fever too often rises after dusk, using the quiet hours of night to burn away infection. The darkness becomes a forge where immunity tempers itself in rest. This nocturnal rhythm hints at a deeper truth, that the immune system is not only a network of defense, but a participant in the circadian architecture of life. Almost every immune cell carries a molecular clock, a set of genes that track the passage of time. These clocks align with those of the brain and organs, ensuring that immune responses occur when they are most effective: readiness at dawn, restoration at dusk. When this synchrony breaks, when night is mistaken for day through artificial light or irregular sleep, the immune system loses its rhythm. Inflammation lingers, repair falters, and chronic disease takes root. Modern life, with its sleepless glow, has dimmed not only our nights, but also our internal harmony. Meanwhile, deep within the gut, an organ with more nerve endings than the spinal cord, another network whispers to the immune system through chemistry and touch. Trillions of microbes line the intestinal walls, forming a living interface between body and environment. This is the microbiome, the oldest and most intimate community you will ever belong to. It digests your food, trains your immunity, produces neurotransmitters like serotonin, and even shapes your mood. Scientists now call the gut the second brain, not as metaphor, but as biological fact. When this microbial city thrives in balance, it teaches tolerance. Beneficial bacteria communicate with immune cells through the gut lining, releasing short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation and strengthen the barrier between self and world. But when imbalance arises from processed food, antibiotics, or emotional distress, the ecosystem falters. The gut becomes porous, leaking small fragments of bacterial molecules into the bloodstream. The immune system interprets this as invasion and responds with chronic low-grade inflammation, a silent fire that smolders for years, fueling diseases of the heart, joints, and mind. What's remarkable is how emotion itself influences this ecosystem. Experiments show that animals under prolonged stress lose diversity in their gut microbiota. Humans too reflect this pattern. Anxiety reshapes the microbial landscape, reducing beneficial strains and amplifying those linked to inflammation. In turn, these altered microbes send distress signals to the brain through the vagus nerve and through metabolites that cross into the bloodstream. The result is a feedback loop where mood and immunity mirror one another, a duet of chemistry and feeling. This realization reshapes the way we understand health. The immune system is not an isolated defense mechanism. It is a participant in a vast emotional ecology. Every thought, every breath, every meal becomes part of its environment. When you calm your mind, you calm your blood. When you nourish your gut, you steady your mood. Health emerges not from control, but from conversation. Consider the simplest act of sleep once more. In the quiet hours of night, when the mind's chatter dissolves and breath slows to its natural rhythm, the immune system moves without interference. It cleanses, remembers, and restores. Natural killer cells patrol for potential threats. The liver filters toxins released from broken down cells. Lymph fluid circulates, gently guided by the subtle pulse of muscles, even in rest. In dreams, the brain sorts memory. In parallel, the immune system prunes its own, deleting unnecessary inflammation, preserving essential wisdom. Sleep, then, is not escape, it is governance. Curiously, this connection between immunity and rest is shared across life itself. In fruit, flies' immune activation changes sleep patterns, encouraging longer rest to aid recovery. In mammals, inflammation can induce drowsiness, a biological strategy to conserve energy. Even plants close their leaves during darkness, reallocating resources toward repair. Rest, it seems, is not a luxury, but a law of living systems. To persist, life must pause. There's a question worth pausing on. If sleep and calm strengthen immunity, could modern restlessness weaken it? Scientists now suspect so. Rates of chronic inflammatory disease have risen alongside sleeplessness and psychological stress. The cure may not always lie in medicine alone, but in rediscovering rhythm, returning to cycles of day and night, stimulation and stillness, vigilance and trust. Immunity, like music, depends on timing. Beneath the weight of data, there remains something quietly profound about this network. It tells us that mind and body are not separate realms, but mirrors. The immune system listens to our inner world, responding to the tone of our days. When life becomes noise, it grows reactive. When life softens, it learns to heal. This doesn't mean thoughts alone can cure disease, but that they help set the conditions for balance, a state where the body can do what it was designed to do, restore itself. So as you close your eyes tonight, remember that your biology continues, the work of awareness, even as consciousness fades. The breath you take feeds two minds, one of neurons, one of cells. Both listen, both learn, both rest. Within the darkness of sleep, your immune system rehearses tomorrow's defenses, guided by rhythms older than humanity. You are not shutting down. You are tuning in to the oldest conversation in nature, the one between silence and survival. When darkness falls and thought begins to fade, another world awakens within you. The mind drifts toward dreams, but the body does not rest. Beneath your skin, in the deep and silent corridors of blood and bone work, continues with quiet devotion. Every cell, every strand of DNA, every drifting immune sentinel becomes part of a great nocturnal watch, a universe that never sleeps. It is easy to imagine that sleep is surrender, that the body grows still and the world pauses. Yet inside night is a time of extraordinary activity. While consciousness dissolves into the calm blur of dreams, the immune system sharpens its focus. White blood cells patrol more freely, guided by hormonal shifts that favor repair over defense. The hormone melatonin, released from the pineal gland as daylight fades, becomes the conductor of this midnight symphony. It regulates not only the rhythm of sleep, but the rhythm of immunity, calming inflammation, directing antioxidant defenses, and synchronizing the body's clocks. As melatonin rises, cortisol, the stress hormone of daylight, subsides, and the inner world changes mood. The body that spent the day reacting now turns inward to rebuild. In this darkness, the immune system becomes a craftsman rather than a soldier. Damaged cells, worn from the friction of metabolism, are quietly identified and removed. Macrophages, the same scavengers that once devoured invaders, now sweep through tissues, digesting fragments of the day's cellular debris. In the liver, detoxification enzymes reach their peak, processing metabolic waste and neutralizing chemical byproducts. Within the brain, the glymphatic system, a network of channels that clears waste from neural tissue, opens wide. Cerebrospinal fluid flows like a gentle tide, washing away proteins and toxins that accumulate during wakefulness. It is the brain's own immune rinse, a nightly purification that protects memory and clarity. Even DNA, that molecular record of your life, undergoes maintenance while you sleep. Enzymes patrol the genetic code, searching for errors caused by stress, radiation, or oxidation. When they find a break, they mend it silently, precisely. In every moment of rest, thousands of small repairs restore the integrity of your cells, ensuring that the story of who you are remains legible. This invisible labor is what keeps time from unraveling your body too soon. But repair is only half the story. The immune system also uses the night to remember. During deep sleep, especially in the stages known as slow wave and REM, the body consolidates its immune memory. Antigens encountered during the day, fragments of viruses, bacteria, or vaccines, are revisited by lymphocytes, and the blueprints for antibodies are refined. The next time those same threats appear, the body will respond faster, stronger, wiser. It's as if while you dream, your immune system dreams with you, replaying the day's encounters, drawing lessons, engraving protection into the architecture of your blood. How remarkable it is that something as soft as sleep can hold such fierce intelligence. Beneath stillness lies strategy, beneath rest, revolution. This is the paradox of the immune system. It is never idle. While consciousness sleeps, vigilance continues without supervision. Natural killer cells scour tissues for the faint signatures of infection or malignancy. Stem cells in the marrow divide to replace the day's fallen defenders. Proteins fold and refold, ensuring the machinery of life remains intact. The body does not stop living at night. It becomes more alive in quieter ways. Science has shown this rhythm in exquisite detail. Studies reveal that people who sleep fewer than 6 hours a night have reduced antibody responses to vaccines. Chronic sleep deprivation raises inflammatory markers and weakens the coordination between immune cells. The lesson is clear. Rest is not indulgence. It is participation in the oldest cycle of survival. The body heals only when given time to listen to itself. Meanwhile, melatonin, the gentle herald of darkness, performs tasks that stretch far beyond regulating dreams. It neutralizes free radicals, protects mitochondria from oxidative stress, and tempers the immune system's fire. Where inflammation burns too long, melatonin becomes the cooling rain. Its nightly surge signals to immune cells that the day's battles are over, that now is the time to mend rather than to fight. This shift from defense to restoration is the essence of balance, the invisible hand that keeps biology from tipping into exhaustion. If one could see the body at night, with eyes attuned to bioluminescence, it might look like a galaxy, clusters of glowing mitochondria flickering in each cell, rivers of lymph pulsing like constellations in slow motion, the faint shimmer of electrons moving through DNA repair enzymes. Every heartbeat sends a wave of microscopic light through the veins. In this imagery, the human body becomes a mirror of the night sky, a cosmos of motion within stillness, order within silence. You are, in truth, a continuation of that same cosmic pattern. The stars forge atoms. The body rearranges them into thought and renewal. The universe does not rest, and neither do you. There's a gentle irony here. The act of sleeping, of surrendering awareness, is what allows the body's deepest intelligence to emerge. When you step aside, the ancient mechanisms take over. Evolution has spent billions of years refining this nocturnal choreography. From single-celled organisms that once synchronized their metabolism with light and dark to mammals that sleep and dream, the cycle of activity and rest has always been the engine of endurance. Your immune system carries that legacy still. In its tireless repair work lies a memory older than humanity, the memory of life learning to trust the rhythm of time. As you lie in darkness, countless tiny acts of generosity unfold within you. Cells give themselves up for replacement. Molecules sacrifice energy to repair their neighbors. Tissues release signals that say quietly, we are healing. The body is not a machine in these hours. It is a garden pruning, seeding, and blooming in silence. When you wake, you will not notice the billions of events that occurred to keep you whole, yet they will have written themselves into your being a slightly stronger immune memory, a cleaner mind, a steadier pulse. Sometimes it is easy to forget this. We imagine health as a daytime pursuit, exercise, nutrition, willpower, but half of our well-being is grown in darkness, watered by stillness. In sleep, the immune system becomes philosopher, architect, and caretaker. It decides what to preserve and what to release. It remembers the lessons of danger, but it also practices mercy. Even the death of old cells is orderly apoptosis, a graceful exit that spares the surrounding tissue. Every night, the body writes small elegies of renewal. Perhaps this is the truest meaning of safety, not the absence of threat, but the quiet confidence that even in rest, you are being cared for. The immune system's night watch never tires. It listens for imbalance, corrects what it can, forgives what it must. Each breath you take while sleeping is an act of trust. Trust that the ancient intelligence within you knows what to do. As dawn approaches, melatonin fades, cortisol stirs, and the gears of wakefulness begin again. The immune system, having completed its nightly rituals, retreats to baseline vigilance. Yet the traces of its work remain repaired. DNA, renewed cells, a mind slightly clearer than before. The sunrise doesn't just touch the sky, it touches every molecule that has survived the night's labors. You awaken not as the same being who fell asleep, but as a subtly renewed version of yourself, sculpted by unseen hands. If you listen closely in those quiet moments before morning, you might sense it, a hum beneath the heartbeat, a steady rhythm beneath the breath. That is the sound of the universe inside you, still turning, still watching. The night does not end when you wake. It continues in the patient awareness of your cells. The immune system remains on guard, not as a fortress, but as a friend, an ancient presence that never leaves, never stops learning, never sleeps. So rest deeply, knowing that life keeps its vigil. Even in silence, even in darkness, even in dreams, the body endures. You are being watched over by the oldest guardians of existence. Not angels, not stars, but the living light of your own cells. The night is their domain, and through them, you are part of a universe that never sleeps. And now, as the last threads of night stretch thin against the light, the story comes full circle. You have traveled through the hidden universe inside you, through the barriers that protect the cells, that patrol the dialogues, that decide the memories that endure. You've seen how defense becomes learning, how balance becomes wisdom, how every breath carries the quiet labor of survival. The immune system, that tireless network of guardians and teachers, never truly rests. Yet tonight, it has reminded you that vigilance and peace can coexist. It is humbling to think that all of this, the chemistry of awareness, the rhythm of healing, happens without command. No thought directs it. No will sustains it. It unfolds because it must, because life has practiced its choreography for billions of years. Long before there were humans to name it, this intelligence existed, evolving in the darkness of ancient seas. You are its latest expression, a brief moment of consciousness built from timeless design. Every cell inside you carries the memory of that inheritance. They know how to fight, how to yield, how to renew. When you fall ill, they rise. When you heal, they rebuild. When you rest, they watch. In them lies proof that the universe is not indifferent. It moves through you with purpose, preserving what can be preserved, releasing what cannot. Even in the quietest moment, there is dialogue molecules, whispering systems adjusting the body, learning how to keep its fragile harmony alive. Perhaps that is the most beautiful truth of all, that life protects itself through cooperation, not control. The immune system, like consciousness, is not a single thing, but a relationship, a living treaty between you and everything that has ever touched you. It remembers the past, but does not dwell on it. It forgives, adapts, and begins again each morning. That patience is what allows you to wake whole, no matter how chaotic the world may seem. So as you lie there, listening to the faint rhythm of your breath, let this thought settle: you are being cared for by an intelligence older than memory. Beneath the surface of awareness, your body is still at work, restoring, refining, preparing. The watch continues, gentle and unbroken. You can rest because something within you never stops. If you could see it, the endless glow of life unfolding inside you, it might look like a galaxy in motion. Every cell a star, every pulse a spark of continuity. The universe above and the universe within are mirrors of the same design, both expanding, both learning, both alive. Thank you for drifting through this journey tonight, for letting science become story and biology become peace. The more we understand the intelligence of our own bodies, the more we remember our place in the larger pattern of things. You are part of that pattern, as intricate as ancient, and as necessary as the light that returns with every dawn. May your rest be deep, your cells untroubled, and your dreams full of quiet wonder. Until next time, this is the Sleepy Scientist, wishing you calm renewal and the comfort of knowing that even in sleep, the universe keeps watch.